Okay, so the title of the module, the first module that I have for you in Algebra 1 is called Rules and Properties, the Foundations of Algebra. Algebra is indeed built upon rules and properties. Now we're going to talk about some of the properties, but before we can actually demonstrate the properties or understand them, we have to first talk about the rules. So this um, lesson is going to be on the rules of algebra. And the rules of algebra essentially pertain to the four operations of algebra. Hopefully you can name the four operations of algebra. If you can't, then, well, I'm, uh, I don't know what to say. The four operations of algebra, of course, are addition. And if you didn't know what they were now you know what an operation is. An operation is something that you can do with numbers. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Those are the four operations. Now, suppose we have an expression with these four operations in it. We've got addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division in this expression. Now, I want to know what this equals. Well, let me take my handy-dandy calculator and find out. First, I'm going to use the standard calculator. And I'm going to say, let's see, 1 plus 2 minus 3 times 4 divided by 5. And let's see what it equals. It says it equals 0. Okay, well, is that true? You might think so. Calculator doesn't lie, does it? Well, let's pull up the other version of the calculator, which is the scientific calculator, and let's try the same thing. 1 plus 2 minus 3 times 4 divided by 5. 0.6. Well, gee, is it 0 or is it 0.6? Now, I'm going to pause the video and just figure out whether I typed in something wrong or I can't see. I'm going to pause. Okay, it turns out zero point 0.6. I didn't type anything in wrong. So 0.6 is uh, the what the scientific calculator tells us not the solution, the simplified the value of this expression really is when we simplify it. Now, if I asked you, do you want to trust the standard calculator or the scientific calculator? Which one of them which calculator seems smarter? Well, the standard calculator doesn't have much on it there. It's pretty standard. The scientific calculator seems smarter. It's kind of silly, but I would trust the scientific calculator. It is indeed true that the case that it is the scientific calculator which is correct, and this is not correct. Um, well, where did this answer of 0 come from? Well, it came from 1 plus 2 is 3, so 3 minus 3 times 4 divided by 5. 3 minus 3, that's 0 times 4 divided by 5. Well, 0 times 4, that's 0 divided by 5, and 0 divided by 5 is 0. Now, I'm going to explain in a moment where this 0.6 came from, which is actually correct. It's because of the rules that we have to play by in algebra. We have to play by there's a certain order that the operations take place in. in algebra. Now, some of you probably have learned about order of operations, and you're probably remembering an acronym. And if you've learned about the order of operations, I can almost guarantee you that you've learned the acronym PEMDAS, and you remember that with "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Well, I'm going to suggest that you forget about Aunt Sally and go with my acronym instead, because there are various reasons that I don't think that that's the best acronym, and I don't that's very confusing for some students, and I know why. Now, uh, let's take a look at what I consider to be a clearer explanation of the order of operations. First, we deal with grouping. Any grouping that the expression has, we take care of that first. Then we take care of exponents. Then we take care of multiplication and division in the order that it appears from left to right, just like we read from left to right. Multiplication does not precede division. Multiplication and division, if there's division before multiplication, then you do the division first. If there's multiplication before division, then you do the multiplication first, from left to right. That's one of the reasons that I don't like PEMDAS, because it makes students think that the multiplication comes before the division. And then finally, addition and subtraction, from left to right, on the same level. Now, so we've got GEMA is my acronym, and I suggest just you can create whatever device you want for that acronym. But my suggestion is gotta eat more almonds. You can say gotta eat more avocados, or gotta eat more asparagus, whatever your fancy. I just chose almonds because they happen to be high in monounsaturated fat, which monounsaturated fat is good for lowering your um, what is it, LDL, your low um, density lipoprotein um, cholesterol, and it's good for raising your HDL, your high density lipoprotein cholesterol, the good stuff. Anyway, almonds. The short of that is almonds are good for you. You got to eat more almonds. Okay, it's good for your heart. Okay, so now let's look at an example. First of all, let me illustrate why point 6 actually is the correct value for this expression, 1 plus 2 minus 3 times 4 divided by 5. If we follow the order of operations, well, there isn't any grouping. I'll show you what grouping is in a second. There aren't any exponents in this expression, just the 4 basic operations. And we multiply and divide before we add and subtract. So we look across here, and the first operation that's going to take place is the 3 times 4, because that's a multiplication slash division, and the multiplication comes, we encounter multiplication before we encounter division. So we don't do anything with 1 plus 2, but we take 3 divided by 3 times 4 minus 3 times 4, that's 12. You know what? For clarity's sake, I'm going to go black here. 1 plus 2 minus, and then I'm going to go red, 12. And then I'll go back to black. Divided by 5. Okay. Well, now, the next operation that we have to take care of, remember, multiplication and division still, we have to take care of this division before we take care of this addition and subtraction. So next, let's go blue. So we got 1 plus 2 minus, and then we got 12 divided by 5. 12 divided by 5 is 12 fifths, which is 2 and 2 fifths, which is 2.4. I should have made that 2.4 in blue, shouldn't I have? Let's go blue. 2.4, just to demonstrate more clearly. Okay, and now, well, now we go, we got addition and subtraction left to right. So first we do the 1 plus 2 is 3 minus 2.4. And 3 minus 2.4, of course, is 0.6. Okay, a little more elaborate example here. This time, we've got an exponent in here. So, according to the order of operations, the first operation, and it technically is an operation. This exponent is an operation. It's a shorthand form of multiplication. So the first thing we're going to take care of here is 4 squared. So we have 1 minus 2 plus 3 times 4 squared. Hopefully you don't think that's 8. 4 squared does not mean 4 times 2. It means 4 times itself, which is 16. Okay, next operation. Well, multiplication is the next level down, so we're going to take care of this 3 times 16 next. So we've got 1 minus 2 plus, and 3 times 16. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 6 is 18. So 30 and 18 is 48. Okay, now, what's next? We got one. Does addition come before subtraction? No, addition and subtraction are the same level in the order of operations. So you do whichever one comes first, and the subtraction comes first. So we'll take this subtraction and we'll get negative 1. Negative 1 plus 48 gives us 47. Okay, let's look at this example. This time, the subtraction has been grouped. This is an example of grouping. So the first item of business is this grouping here. 1 minus 2. Well, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 times 4 squared. And then, of course, from there on out, it's going to be, this is actually going to end up the same as the last one, I believe. So this is actually not a very good example. The next, I know what I should have done to make. I'm going to go ahead and stick this in to make it a little more. Make it a little more exciting. I'm going to group the 3 times 4 also, so it won't be just the same as the previous example. Okay, so now before the 3 times 4 was grouped, we took care of the squaring first, that exponent. But here we have an operation that's been grouped to make the operation take place before it would have ordinarily. So the next operation that's going to that we're going to perform is this multiplication that's been grouped together. So we've got negative 1 plus, and 3 times 4 is 12 squared. And I should have made that 12 blue for clarity. Negative 1 plus 12 squared. Okay, and I suspect, you know what, I'm going to scratch this example because I've got the same example essentially. Grouping the 1 minus 2 doesn't really affect much. So let's just skip this example and you'll see why in a minute. Or maybe not, but don't worry about it. I'm just skipping him. Not because he's not a good example, but because I have another one that's the same thing, basically. Okay, so I would recommend that you pause this recording and see if you can simplify this expression. I'm going to go ahead and simplify it right now, but if you don't want to, if you want to try it, I would suggest that you pause the video and try it yourself, and then see if you did it correctly. So clearly, we have grouping here to take care of, and the grouping here is this grouping that's this addition that's been grouped. So first, we take care of that addition. 1 minus 5 times 4 squared. And next, we have multiplication here, we have an exponent here. We need to take care of the exponent first, that power there. So let's choose blue for that. And we'll have 1 minus 5 times, and 4 squared is 16. And next, the multiplication has to take place. We have to take care of 5 times 16. So we have 1 minus, let's see, 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 6 is 30. 50 and 30 is 80. And 1 minus 80 is negative 79. I also recommend that you pause and try this one and then see if you got it right. First, we take care of this grouping here. The multiplication has been grouped. So we have 1 minus 2 plus 3 times 4 is 12 squared. Next, the exponent does its duty. So we have 1 minus 2 plus 12 squared is 144. Then we just go in order from left to right, because all that's left is addition and subtraction. So 1 minus 2 is 3. 3? Oh my goodness gracious, hallelujah. Let's undo that junk. What's 1 minus 2, boys and girls? 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And negative 1 plus 144 is 143. Okay. Now, we've got some serious grouping here. Again, I recommend that you pause and try it yourself. 1 minus 2 plus 3. Well, inside 1 minus 2 plus 3, what do we do first? Well, we got addition and subtraction in there. We're going to perform the subtraction first, because it comes first. So we've got negative 1. Oops, I should have done the negative 1 in red for clarity. Negative 1 plus 3 times 4 squared. Alright, well, we still have more to do inside that grouping. Negative 1 plus 3, that will be 2. So now taking care of that whole grouping, I've got 2 times 4 squared. Well, which happens first, the multiplication or the squaring this exponent? The exponent does his job first, so we have to square 4. That gives us 2 times 4 squared is 16. And 2 times 16, of course, is 32. Alright, one more. I recommend again that you pause. I really like this example. First, we have to take care of this grouping. 2 plus 3 times 4 has been grouped. 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 times 4 has been grouped. Now, within this grouping, 2 plus 3 times 4, what takes place first? 2 plus 3 or 3 times 4? I hope you are saying that 3 times 4 has to go first. So we've got 1 minus 2 plus 12, 3 times 4 squared. But we've still got grouping. The 2 plus 12, this addition is grouped. So take care of 2 plus 12 next. 1 minus 14 squared. Alright, well, that's pretty. Now, it would be very unnatural to do 1 minus 14 before squaring. It just very unnatural. Probably you wouldn't even be tempted to do that. Hopefully. So obviously we have to square this 14 next. And Mr. Wells just happens to know that 14 squared is 196. Wouldn't expect you to necessarily know that. And 1 minus 196 is negative 195. Now, very quickly, some division. I'm not going to actually simplify or evaluate these expressions, but I just want to point out why I didn't include division in any of those. But division is pretty natural. We don't ever use this symbol here for division in algebra. We always write division in algebra as a fraction or a ratio. So what this expression would actually look like if it were written in algebra with algebra notation would look like this: 1 minus 2 plus, well, 3 divided by 4, that's just 3/4. And then this is usually the way we indicate multiplication in algebra, using parentheses. And that's why another reason I don't like the PEMDAS acronym, where P is parentheses, because a lot of kids think that, oh, well, I see parentheses there, I gotta do that first. No, that's multiplication. It's grouping that has to come first in the order of operations. Now I'm not going to bother evaluating that, but it's pretty obvious what you would do first. It would be 3/4 times 5, and then 1 minus 2 plus whatever 3/4 times 5 was. Now this expression, if we wrote it the way it would look in algebra, 1 minus 2 plus, now 3 times 4 would take place. Let's see, 3 times 4. That would take place. Oh, and then, well, 5 squared, that would have, we're dividing 4 by 5. Are we dividing by 4 by 5 and then squaring all of that, or are we dividing 4 by whatever 5 squared is? It's the latter. We're dividing 4 by whatever 5 squared is. So when you see it written out correctly and algebraically, using typical algebra notation, you're not going to divide this 4 by. You're not going to be tempted to divide 4 by 5 before squaring. Okay, and here this would look like this. We'd have 1 minus 2 plus 3. It's all groups, notice, but if it were in the way you would normally write it in algebra, this division is as a fraction, divided by 4. And then all that will be multiplied by 5. And you're probably not going to do things out of order when it's written this way. This guy would be 1 minus, and the 2 plus 3 times 4, 2 plus 3 times 4 is all being divided by 5 squared. And if you saw it that way, you probably would do it naturally in the correct order anyway. Now, a lot of people will be tempted here to add 2 and 3 first, but no. This multiplication would come first. 2 plus 3 is not first because this multiplication would precede that addition according to the order of operations. Now, that was quite a bit of detail on the order of operations with some helpful examples, and I will give you some opportunity to make sure that you have digested that in an assignment of some sort.